how prevalent is misinformation in the election that's happening right now?
So misinformation, which is misleading or confusing information shared by accident, is somewhat prevalent. But what we've seen in the months leading up to the election, really nonstop, is disinformation. So false or misleading information that's intentionally put into voters' feeds to confuse them, to sow doubt in advance. So when election day comes, they already have these preceded false narratives in their heads, and they're expecting activity to happen that will confirm those narratives for them.
So how much of an impact do you think this mis and disinformation will actually have on the votes that people decide today?
So we're about to find out in the next few hours. I mean, we have already seen election officials, people running for office, repeat disinformation claims. We've been seeing that in the weeks leading up. We've been seeing that already today. So the question will be, are voters going to buy this cyclical scam that these election deniers are offering when they're repeating these lies that have really been the same lies since 2020? We hope, that voters are able to cast their ballot and there are no challenges. We've seen things be safe at the polls so far. So hopefully these election deniers and these people seeding these narratives won't have their way, but we'll see. Time will tell.
So there are so many conspiracy theories out there that we don't want to amplify here, but what can we regular people do to mitigate mis or disinformation?
Sure. So one thing that everybody can do is slow down. We all passively scroll through our feeds, and it can be easy to share something quickly without checking the source. We can all slow down. Also, people think sometimes that if they want to refute something or say, hey, this is wild, or hey, this isn't true, that they should reshare it. But actually, they shouldn't. They shouldn't reshare or give more amplification to the false post. And journalists really have this bad habit too. They're trying to share breaking news. They can slow down and wait till all the facts are collected, or just post the true information instead of resharing what's false. Also, talk to your neighbors, talk to people who don't use social media regularly, and help them understand that there are people out there trying to push false narratives intentionally on social media, because it's a place that you go to see trusted sources, your friends, your family, etc.
One of my next questions was, how can the mainstream media make this better or worse?
Yes, well, I think that the mainstream media has a tough job. They're trying to provide breaking news, relevant information, but unfortunately, with how fast things move on social media, it means that often they're taking things out of context. So we've already seen today, journalists resharing things that if they hadn't shared it, those narratives would have stayed in fringe spaces. They wouldn't have been exposed to the mainstream public. So journalists have a duty to be a little bit more responsible and remember that Twitter is not a place where the majority of Americans are spending their time. And so, the reactions they get on Twitter or keeping up with the Twitter stream is not exactly, the most responsible way to be getting information out to everybody who votes.
Well, speaking of that, I'm curious what you make of Elon Musk's approach at Twitter thus far. The right to free speech is one thing. The right to algorithmic amplification of free speech is another thing. Do you like what you're seeing, or do you worry about the potential dangers?
I worry about the potential dangers, and there's just so many. I mean, cutting resources like he did so close to the election, most people are going to be thinking about content moderation because he keeps forcing this false conversation about free speech. But that's not really even at the top of our list or even at the bottom of our list of what we worry about. We worry about how when trust and safety teams are cut, we don't have the staff on hand, the platforms don't have the staff on hand to respond to the threats that we're seeing, to respond to law enforcement subpoenas, to try to get the information of where someone's posting from if they're posting an active threat. The back and forth on free speech is a distraction from what we know these platforms are focused on, which is growth. Their product features are taking pieces of content and putting it into more feeds than would otherwise see it. So people who think that it's a question of free speech or censorship don't realize that their feeds are already curated. That curation's already happening. They don't have a choice in what they're putting in what they see in their feeds. That's just not something they have already. So it's a distraction, and we're all worried about what Elon Musk is going to do. No one really has confidence in his ability to understand how to make Twitter a safe place or even a profitable place for those who are only concerned with the money it's going to make. So I'd say all around, it's been bad news so far.
So look, these are problems that are going to persist even when the election is over. What happens over the next couple of weeks? How do you expect misinformation, disinformation to weigh on our digestion of these results?
It's going to be taxing, I'd say. I'd say that regardless of the results, we know that the bad actors who are pushing to deny the 2020 election results are likely to deny results in this election, and they have a long game. Their eyes are on 2024. And so you can expect that whatever happens over the next 2 weeks will be setting up for what they want to carry into the 2024 elections, whether that's calling certain locations or certain states the most prevalent locations for alleged election fraud, whether that's denying election results, whether that's pursuing litigation. All of this is leading up to 2024, where they hope to do their ultimate power grab and restore what they had previously. So we'll see their playbook for 2024 show in the next coming weeks, and hopefully Americans will reject this narrative and not give it more oxygen, and we can all move on with the actual results of the election based on what Americans choose to say in this election.